just stopped and wondered, what really makes you, you? You know, we think it's all about our choices, the big moments, but what if the things that are really shaping us are, well, kind of invisible? That's what we're going to get into today, uncovering the unseen architects of our lives.
It's a huge question, right? So we're going to break it down and look at three pretty surprising forces. We're going to explore these hidden blueprints that influence who we become, right from our very first moments on this planet.
So first up is something you're probably not even thinking about right now, something happening deep inside you, the rhythm of your own heart. Turns out it's doing a heck of a lot more than just pumping blood. Next, we're shifting to an external force that, let's be honest, has basically become an extension of ourselves, that glowing screen. We're going to look at what the actual data says about how it impacts a brain that's still under construction. And finally, we'll dig into the powerful, foundational roles we learn to play in our very first relationships. I mean, the script for how we act is often written long before we have any conscious memory of it. All right, let's start with our internal clock. And no, I'm not talking about a watch on your wrist. I'm talking about the one in your chest. The latest science is showing us that our very perception of time is deeply physically connected to our heartbeat. The key word here is interoception, okay? Think of it like your brain's sixth sense. But instead of seeing or hearing the outside world, it's listening to the inside world of your body. It's paying attention to your heart, your breathing, your gut, and this skill is crucial for way more than just staying alive. So how in the world did researchers figure this out? Well, they used this really clever experiment. They had people do two different things. For the first task, they had to listen to a sound and then guess how long it lasted. For the second, they just had to react to a sound. And the brain scans, well, they were fascinating. Only when people were trying to time something did their brain activities show this ramp up, where it was actively paying attention to each heartbeat. It was literally using the heart as a metronome to count the seconds. This quote from the study really nails the whole idea. Our sense of time isn't just some abstract concept in our heads. It's physically embodied. Your gut feeling for how long a minute is directly connected to how well your brain can listen to your own heart. Wild, right? Okay, let's move on to our next architect. We're going to pivot from the quiet, internal rhythm of the heart to the very loud, external glow of digital screens, especially when it comes to the youngest among us. Just look at this number for a second. 24.7%. That's the percentage of kids under 2 who meet the recommended guideline of 0 hours of screen time. Let me flip that for you. It means nearly 3 out of every 4 infants are already being exposed to screens on a regular basis. And that exposure ramps up fast. One major study tracked kids and found that between the ages of 2 and 3, the average weekly screen time jumps from about 17 hours a week to almost 25. That is a massive leap in a single, incredibly important year for brain development. So here's the bottom line. What's the actual impact? Well, that same study found a pretty clear link. More screen time at age 2 and 3 was tied directly to lower scores on key developmental tests later on, things like communication, problem solving, and social skills when they were 3 and 5 years old. And this isn't just a one-off thing. Dr. John Hutton, who's a leading researcher in this field, points out that the brain changes they're seeing in these little kids are strikingly similar to what they see in teenagers. And that suggests there could be a cumulative snowball effect over time, which makes those early habits really, really important. All right, on to our third and final architect, the family. This is ground zero. It's where we learn our very first and often most permanent lessons about who we are and what our role is in relation to other people. A really important idea here is something called parentification. It's basically when the whole system gets flipped upside down. The child, instead of being the one who's cared for, becomes the caregiver. They're forced to take on these adult emotional burdens that are just way too heavy for their little shoulders. And the real-world fallout from this is, well, it's heartbreaking. This quote comes from a caregiver, and it just powerfully shows the deep, lasting resentment that can fester from these unbalanced family roles, where one person ends up carrying the weight for everybody else. It just wears them down. You know, these huge family dynamics, they actually show up in the smallest, everyday challenges. Take something like toilet training. It's not just about learning rules. It's a full-on sensory experience for a kid. Is the seat too cold? Is the flush crazy loud? And look at that last point, interoception. Boom, we're full circle. Can the child even notice their own body's signals? It shows how our biology and our environment are in this constant conversation. So, we've looked at our hearts, our screens, our families, all these powerful architects. But here's the good news. That blueprint they created isn't set in stone. Just understanding these forces gives us the power to make different choices. So, what can we actually do? Well, the research points to some really clear practical steps. First, just prioritize conversation. That simple back and forth with another human is way more important for getting a kid ready for school than any app. Second, encourage real-world play. The kind of information a brain gets from stacking blocks or messing with paint just can't be copied on a screen. And third, model how to handle emotions. Kids learn how to calm down and process feelings by watching us, not by watching a device. Look, we are all shaped by these incredibly powerful, often invisible forces. But knowing what they are, that gives us agency. That allows us to be more than just the sum of our programming. So the real question isn't just what shapes us, but now that we know the architects, what will we choose to build?